Well, I guess we're winging it. Hey guys, I'm here in the lagoon. There's Stingray, so I'm a little nervous. Basically, I wanted to give an update of like what types of things are working for me as I write this novel, because it's been a lot of trial and error, a lot of just like thinking one thing's gonna work, giving it a go, and some things worked for a little bit and then petered out. This journey's been really cool because I've been able to discover really just like my own rhythm, my own style, learning what works for me. And I think that's the cool thing about writing, is that every writer is going to be a little bit different. When I first became serious about like writing this book, I was just absorbing as much information as possible, reading books on how to write, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, attending virtual writing summits, and all of it's been great. And I think it got to the point where I was just consuming and not really doing anything myself. I kind of had this feeling like, man, I gotta learn everything before I even get started, before I do any writing myself. And I think there's a bit of like healthy humility that goes along with that. Like, this being my first book, like I really wanted to see what was out there that could help me get started here. But that's just the thing, is like all the advice and stuff has been super helpful for me. And there's kind of a point where I just gotta jump in and get started. And what was cool along the way is there were several authors that were just like, hey, this is the advice that I have for you, but if it doesn't work for you, throw it out. And I really respect that, because writing is really a creative art form. You know, there's nobody that can give you a formula or a step-by-step for every little thing. So I kind of got to the point where I was working on an outline. So I was like, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? I need to figure out the plot. I need to figure out what happens in my story. And with that, who's the protagonist? What's the antagonistic force or villain, if you will? But then also, like, what's the theme of the story? What's the underlying message? I was working on those, and I was really convinced, like, I just got to outline the heck of this. I got to have 15-page outline. I got to know every little plot hole, plot point, whatever, before I even get started. And I kind of just burn out on that. So I got started on the beginning of the book, chapter 1, just writing a little bit. And I think I started it maybe 7 or 8 times, like wrote a kind of preliminary first chapter. I think a lot of that is not going to go into the final manuscript, but it was a good practice, like learning experience for me, just to like kind of find my groove, find my rhythm. So then when we get down to the actual writing, there were a lot of things that I tried. I was like, okay, what do I use? Do I use a writing app? There's one called Scrivener that's pretty popular. I had downloaded one called Novelist, and then I really ended up just using Google Docs. I may use Scrivener down the road, but we'll see. And then from that, it was like I ended up changing my outline a couple times already, and really just like at each stage of the outlining and the writing process going like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot and we'll see if it works. And a lot of stuff didn't work. But then the things that did work were so like encouraging, really inspiring for me, because I was able to see like there is a groove here for me. And the things that helped me to kind of get into the writing zone, I originally thought like, oh, I'll try this technique where you put on the same song on repeat and just listen to it over and over. So I chose a song by Slaughter to Prevail, which is Russian deathcore. Oh snap, I think there's an osprey. Okay, we're back. I'm in the midst of a lot of really cool birds. There's something. There's a something. Bird expert. Okay, there was an osprey. That was cool. So I was putting on the same song on repeat, thinking like, oh, this will get me in the zone. And it got me in the zone, but it wasn't like a healthy zone. I was able to write, but I wasn't really enjoying the process. It didn't feel like organic and natural, like I had found my spot yet. So I ditched that. I discovered lo-fi music, which was something that I thought I would never listen to. It was very antithetical to my typical death metal, deathcore, brutal slamming, blackened death metal. But you know what? It got me in the zone. Man, put some headphones on, sit at a coffee place, get my computer, put on some lo-fi beats, and just work, man. It felt good. And that's when I wrote some of my best stuff so far that I was able to look at and go, okay, I know this is just the first draft, but I already feel like proud of this, like good about this. Another thing that I learned as I began kind of the actual narrative writing process was good writing requires good headspace. And for me, there are times when it's like, oh, I should be writing, I should be doing this, and I try to force it, and it wouldn't come out well. I'm finding that good writing is kind of like an overflow of what's in your heart and what kind of state of mind you're in. And so doing things throughout the day, throughout the week to kind of reduce my anxiety, and things like morning, evening meditations, reducing caffeine to just 1 cup of coffee in the morning, no more energy drinks, trying to get better sleep, and then just taking breaks throughout the day. Like if I'm at work, going outside, getting some sun, or going paddleboarding, hanging out with egrets. Look at that sneaky boy. Has been helpful. And then really just like, I think I mentioned in a previous video, like just being kind to myself, recognizing that I do have my own capacity. There are going to be some days that I get more done than others. And the cool thing about this being my first novel is there are no deadlines, there are no expectations. It's just me, and this is really just like a passion project. And so I get to make the rules. I think that's been a really empowering thing for me to go, I get to make all the choices here. And part of that is I get to let certain influences in and kind of set boundaries on ones that are not helpful. That's been a really cool process for me. My wife's out there somewhere. She's okay. So then we get down to the actual writing process. And there's so many things that I thought I knew that I didn't. I've been reading a ton the last few years, and it's been helpful to keep reading as I'm writing to go, okay, how did this author phrase this? How did they set up their sentences? What encompasses this scene? Where does the chapter end? Where does it start? And kind of just glean information from reading. One funny thing that's a little embarrassing to admit is once I got started, I was like, okay, what in the heck is a scene? How long should a scene be? Where does it start? Where does it end? Is a scene a chapter? Is a chapter a scene? So I got the answers to some of those questions, but when I go down to like sit and write a scene, I might pick like, okay, got my protagonist. Where is he? Where are we in the scene? Find the setting first. Okay, what is he doing? And asking myself, what can happen in the scene? What kind of like disruptor or event? What is going to make this scene matter? And how is it going to reveal something about my main character, about the situation, about the plot? And is it going to tie in well? And is it going to tie in well with the overarching theme? What are we going to learn about the character? Is there going to be any use of symbolism or foreshadowing or teasing of something that comes later in the book here? How can I enrich this scene? And I know at this point I'm really just in the first draft stage, but I kind of want to set some like foundation, some scaffolding so that I can build on that as I go through the editing process. Another thing that's been helpful is maintaining a blog and my website about this whole process. I feel like I'm probably better able to describe it on there as writing is my own writing's my primary mode of communication. That's where I'm more comfortable. But that's been fun. Just like all writing is practice with writing. And so I'm writing about the writing process, and that's been cool. If you haven't checked it out, feel free to head over to my website, subscribe to the email list, and check out the blog. I'll put the link in the description below. So I don't really know what else to say except for I'm having fun. I'm learning a lot about myself, about writing, about storytelling, about how to kind of get myself in the zone for all of this and what works. And I'm looking forward to what comes next. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Adios.